Alrighty, welcome back everybody. Um, Sorry, that was a really bad intro. Anyways, um, we're back here in GSFL, episode number 5 of this podcast here. We're getting along in the season, already to week 5 almost, which is really crazy. Feels like it's gone by so fast, and yet, I mean, it's only, been 4 weeks. But anyways, so like previous streams, we're gonna end my stream is having issues again. Oh no, it's not. Okay. Anyways, we're gonna like previous streams, we're going to recap the week game by game. Hopefully, if I remember to actually put them all in there, and then we're gonna go over. We're gonna do discuss some things about some certain teams as we do that, and then we'll go into the power rankings, weekly awards, which I don't remember now if I covered last time. And we'll make some predictions for week 5. So that's basically all I gotta say for this. So yeah, let's just get right into it here. So first off, we're gonna obviously, like as we usually do, we're gonna start with every game, going through every single game. We got a lot of exciting action again this week, so let's just not waste any more time. Let's hop right into it. So we'll start off with our first game this past week. And that's week 3. That's not right. So I didn't actually put him in here, did I? Hold on a second. I swear I put him in here, but maybe I didn't. Okay, I did not. That is stupid. Whoops. Let's see. Do I have them on my PC? Or did I actually completely just forget to put them on here at all? So that does happen sometimes. Oh no, I put them on here. I just didn't. Okay, I just didn't put it. Oh no, but I didn't finish putting them on here. That's weird. Yeah. Okay. So looks like, from the looks of things, I for some reason did not choose to do prep properly for this stream. I know I had something to do. I just couldn't remember what it was. So apologies for that, guys. I'll quickly fix this up here. Although I will warn you guys. I mean, actually, it'll be. You guys will understand. It'll be fine. Let's see here. So those are all put in there now. Gotta make sure make sure that's prepped for next time. Alright. So that's all in there. So I have them all here. I just don't have them all in here. So I am gonna quickly fix all these here. Get the right games in here. And then I'll be with you guys in a moment. So I'm just fixing that. That's all good. It's nice is you guys don't have to like see me like turn off a game and then change it or whatever, but it's annoying because now I have to go through every single one of these and put the games in there because I didn't do it yet. So there you go. This happens when it's one person doing everything. So just a moment here. Gotta make sure I get every single game's end graphic, whatever you want to call it, in here, because I do have all graphics made. So I did that part at least. I just completely forgot to put them on here for the stream tonight, so that's okay. It's been a long week already. It's only Wednesday. So let's see here. Get this all in here. Oh, and it's OBS is acting up. There we go. So let's alright, Alright, so those are in there. Let's try this one here. So that's week 3, that's what I thought. Okay. Oop, that's not what I meant to do. That's what I meant to do. There we go. Oh, and I'm pushing buttons I shouldn't be pushing right now. Alright. Just about got all the games done. Here. So I probably could have talked about something through this entire time as you watched me just basically say nothing. But okay. So now, after a bit of a break here, those should all be in there. Now, okay. Alrighty. So let us continue here. So starting off with the first game this week, there we go. The Sentinels traveled to the Dreadnoughts, and another game without Bryce Young. Let me pull up the stat, or actually I guess I could see the stats on the screen, but I have more info about the game on a different screen. But yeah, Bryce Young was not back for this game either, so he was out for this game as well. He's been out since, for those who remember, he got hurt in week 1, didn't play last week, or didn't play in week 2, and did not play in this game. No, he did not play in weeks 2 or 3, so. But he will come back this coming week, so that's good. I'm already going to announce that right now. So I know I'm going to forget. Well, I wasn't going to forget, but I was just on my mind at the moment. So, excuse me. Anyways, so the Sentinels are going into San Antonio and getting the win, barely, over the one-score game, over the San Antonio Dreadnoughts. Yeah, so this game, I mean, I guess this is a perfect time to talk about the whole, the thing I had on the thumbnail. Like, what is up with the Dreadnoughts, man? I mean, this team, they have, solid stars on their roster, and yet they've managed to come up short. To like the first 4 games of the year here. Not to say that like they're 0-4 already now, which that's. But and this is obviously new because in previous Maddens, or I guess in the last 2 seasons prior to this one that you guys will not see ever probably. It was rare for a team to have no wins after 4 weeks because there was such thing as, or that because I was using it with 2 files, half the files, like the only 1 conference per file, were relocated. So for every NFL game, like game against an actual NFL team, that would just be a forced win. So for me to see records like 0-4 is kind of strange at this point, but I digress a little. Anyways, back on the Dreadnoughts. So yeah, Deshaun Bradley having an all right stat line. I mean, 380. I mean, sadly only 1 touchdown. Was sacked 7 times, but not a bad stat line at all. Just could not get the ball through the air into the end zone much. And of course, what makes it worse is that the Dreadnoughts really what held the Dreadnoughts back in this game was their run game. I mean, their run game was but Maynard was shut down by the Sentinels defense, and which made Deshaun Bradley the leading rusher on his team. Well, partially. But yeah, so Bradley led in 2 categories on the team, which is usually a sign of something that something with the team's not necessarily the greatest, unless it's just so happens that the quarterback for whatever reason has a really good day. But I highly doubt that. I'm also going to turn my mic down because it's when I talk up here, I don't want it to be like really loud. Anyways, sorry, headphone users, if you're using headphones while watching this. But yeah, so Bradley, having an all right game for the fourth week in a row and just ultimately not able to deliver. In terms of his receiving stats, I mean, he actually threw the ball, spread it out pretty well. Emmett Peck, the wide receiver, leading the team with 117 yards after 9 catches. The sole touchdown going to Theo Dobson, who had a really good game last week as well against the Dragons. Or no, the Golden Eagles, sorry. But yeah, I mean, other than that, that's the Dreadnoughts for you. They're so far just been arguably, probably, I mean, you'll see this in a moment. They've probably been, if out of all the teams that are still like without a win, they're probably the best team of the 3, 4, whatever, how many there are. We'll look at that later. Look at that later, excuse me. But yeah, so moving on the other side, then the Sentinels. Actually, so I didn't realize this until watching the game, but like they were without their starter from last week, so they were down to their third or fourth string quarterback, which I think is insane. So yeah, Greg Bowles actually not even their. So sorry, I said their fourth string. He's actually their second string. So he was hurt, which is how they were actually down to their third string. Dylan Pierce was their third string last couple weeks since Bryce has been out. But Greg Bowles stepped in because he actually was not hurt anymore. He's been hurt, I think, since the start of the season. After preseason and whatever that we never saw because I simmed it, just to get to this regular season. But yeah, so he had an injury already to start the year, so this was technically his first game back. Yeah, I mean I don't know what it is about the Sentinels so far this year, but they've had pretty consistent quarterback play, so far at least, and it'll be very exciting to see how Bryce Young comes back, or excuse me. How he comes back after having that record-breaking game in week 1, which by the way that record's already been broken. To since I changed the sliders and all that, so it'll be very exciting to see this next week. Actually tomorrow, or forgot I said that. Soon. And we'll go into that more in a little bit. We'll go into that more in a little bit. Anyways, looking more in depth at the Sentinels stat line, Bulls had a decent game, like I said. No touchdowns, though. 1 interception, so that was very odd. They obviously somehow won the game with that. But so really their defense, the fact they were able to sack Deshaun Bradley 7 times and really they were able to shut down their run game was ultimately what ended up leading them to the win. But yeah, so Keenan Harris, excuse me, had a good game. Andrew Overstreet was pretty active, but didn't get a whole lot of yards. Their leading receiver was Alex Golson with 113 yards receiving, and actually George Martinez, another receiver on their roster, also cracked 100 yards as well. Their tight end didn't really see a whole lot of action. Neither of them did. Kyle Pitts is still injured for this game, and actually he will be for this next week again, so we probably won't get to see much Kyle Pitts action until sadly in week 6. So. But anyways, moving over to defense for both teams, like I've already talked about. Obviously, the Sentinels team getting 7 sacks on Bradley. And then on the flip side, the Dreadnoughts get 1 interception turnover from Bulls from Tashawn Matthews, the cornerback. So, and then a lot of tackles. They actually sacked him. The Sentinels the Dreadnoughts actually sacked Bulls 3 times, so I guess that kind of lifts their spirit a little bit. But like I said, ultimately, the Dreadnoughts just are a strong team that unfortunately has just been on the wrong side of, on the wrong side of things, unfortunately. So that's kind of how this ended up playing out. So congrats, obviously, to the Sentinels for the win, but I really hope to see. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing when the Dreadnoughts eventually win their first game. Whether or not that'll happen this week, next week, well, it just all depends. So, but anyways, that's the first game from this past week, Thursday night. Now, we're going to move on to our Saturday games. So the first game on Saturday, or the first game we'll talk about in the noon window, I realize now I could probably put these all on the screen so that way I don't have to, talk about them individually, but we'll do this way for right now because that's how I'm doing it and I like it. So yeah, so the first game here was the let's get this pulled up here. So the Wizards hosting the Huskies, and the Wizards taking their first loss of the year at home to a Huskies team that I think I've probably not given enough credit. I don't know if I've given them enough credit in the last 3 weeks now, 3-4 weeks, whatever it's been, that they've played, because they've actually played. I mean, obviously, last week they had that fluke game, or week 3 they had that fluke game where they played the Aviators, but they only scored field goals, so they were a little shady to me there, or a little shaky. But all in all, I mean, this game they play phenomenal. David Diaz showing what he can do. 5 touchdown passes to no picks, 443 through the air. Their running back, Jamichael Carroll, stepping into from the second string spot. I believe it's the second string. 120. Actually, I guess I could check that, couldn't I? Let me just quickly check this here. He's actually the starter. My bad. Even though he's not the starter, but that's weird. Okay, so he's the second running back, or first running back listed. So that's why I have that in my head. So, but yeah, so he had a great game. 120 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Through the air, 2 receivers crack 100 yards. One of them being Rick Peck. Again, you're gonna have to just bear with me with these names, because these names are these are CPU generated names from simming this league or whatever. So from when I created this, so if they're weird, that's probably why. Because EA is so great at coming up with, or having the AI come up with such great names. Anyways, yeah, he had 163 yards, 3 touchdowns. So an absolutely insane game from him. That's not him in the graphic. We had Darrell Matthews, a tight end, go off again, 120 yards and a touchdown after 11 catches. And then wide receiver Spencer Leverett also getting in there with 4 catches, 63 yards and a touchdown as well. So, but yeah, so I mean, that's insane and then Dave Diaz only getting sacked twice. I forgot that. So he actually had a very good QBR at 130. So, meanwhile, looking over at Trevor Lawrence and the Wizards, statistically, not a bad game. You could easily win a game by throwing these stats, or having the stats that Trevor did. 313 through the air, 2 touchdowns, no picks as well. So no turnovers, which is good. Sacked 2 more times. Okay, that's a little bit, but ultimately, from the looks of things, I mean, Trevor just couldn't, the Wizards defense just fell flat on their face, just could not stop the Huskies offense. And then on the flip side, the Wizards got shut down towards the end, so they couldn't really keep up with the Huskies either. So, because their defense actually stepped up. But like Jaquez Guinea had almost 100-yard game. Marcus Hancock had over 100 yards, almost 100 yards as well. From Brian Tarpley, who's had good games in the past as well. And then Rashawn Goodrich, the tight end, having a touchdown in there as well. But yeah, ultimately just could not, like I said, the Wizards just, the main takeaway from this game is the Wizards just could not handle, or could not take on and keep with the Huskies, and will ultimately see their undefeated streak go by the wayside. They're still a good team. Getting your loss out of the way early in the season is good. So we'll just have to see how they look for how they play this coming week, and see if they can bounce back at all. They're still pretty their division's their division's not the most competitive. I think they still have a good lead in their division in terms of victories. I think they have a 1-game lead now. Would be over the Sentinels, but so yeah, they still lead their division, so it's not all end of the world or anything, but yeah, and then quickly, I guess, brief mention their defenses. Like I said, both defenses played all right. No turnovers, like I said, and then a couple sacks on both sides. Two more on for the Wizards defense than the Huskies. But other than that, that's basically about it. So yeah, that's so the Wizards ultimately this game they took their first loss of the year, and yeah, that's basically all I gotta say about that. So moving on to our next game, we got the Columbus Capitals traveling over slightly down, I guess, to Virginia Beach, Virginia, to take on the Voyagers, formerly known as the Oklahoma City Lancers before I had to relocate them and rebrand them. Thanks, Madden. Um, anyways, but yeah, okay. So the Voyagers have done something incredible here. They become one of the first teams to come back down from 0-2 and win 2 straight. At least in this league, obviously. I know it's happened in real life several times, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but from a team that I thought was, potentially going to be one of the not so great teams after starting 0-2, they had that huge win against the Sentinels last week on primetime, which must have given them a confidence booster, because then here they just, this was a shootout. 44-38 the final score. Looking more in depth at the box score itself, Junior Gray throwing 2 interceptions. Actually, both quarterbacks threw 2 interceptions each. Just Herbert decided to throw 2 more, or happened to throw 2 more touchdowns, and throw for almost 200 more yards, actually. So, yeah, the Columbus Caps defense looks like it's fell flat in the second half, or towards the end of the game at least. And, yeah, I mean, this was another one-score game, so, 1 touchdown from the Capitals would have given them the win. Also, obviously, kicking the extra point. So, yeah, I mean, this truly a game I didn't think was going to be at all worth any watch. I mean, I'm not saying worth any watch because obviously the Voyagers were, they had a big win the week before, but for them to be this competitive, I mean, this was one of the first surprises to me this week. And there's other games that have surprised me as well this week, so we'll get to those in a bit, but this was definitely the first one to do that for me. To be that for me. Be that surprise. Tyquan Bennett for the Capitals, 78 yards on the ground. Not a bad day at all. Nobody on the Capitals hit 100 yards through the air receiving, or on the receiving end. So Kyrie Davis leading their team with 90 yards. The touchdowns coming from Cassidy Higgins as well as Dwayne Hooker. And then moving over, I guess, to the Voyagers. On the flip side, Cameron Henning came back. He left the game last week, or week 3, against the Sentinels with an injury. So, Melvin Van Dyke had to come in for a little bit. But Hennings was back, ready, better than ever, 130, and then dropped a $130 on the ground. So I said that. I felt really weird saying that. 130 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown for Hennings. And then through the air, Andrew Foster and Nico Lopez has to be, just from this game alone, you would have to assume this is the best wide receiver duo in the entire league. And for this week only. For this week and this week only. They are the best wide receiver duo in the league, because Foster had himself 12 catches, 188 yards, and a touchdown. Okay, that's fine. Then Nico Lopez said, I'll do you a little bit better, not so much in yards, but in touchdowns, as I'll have 11 catches, as 1 less catch than you, but 173 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, this Capitals defense just clearly saw Lopez just run just on the field, and they're like, I'm not dealing with that today, man. Like, I don't know what to say. This Capitals, you almost let 2 guys get 200 yards on you. This is not to bash anything, but you could have thrown. The tight end got even almost 100 yards. He got 85. So just an absolute offensive explosion for the Voyagers. I forgot to mention this, but Herbert threw for 492, so he almost threw 500, so that makes sense. But to throw to those 2 receivers that much, that's just insane. Literally looks like they have a double-headed, beast or whatever. And Foster and Lopez, I'll definitely be keeping an eye out more now. I'm sure you guys will as well, for these 2 receivers in the coming weeks, because man, if they can put up these numbers in just one game, I mean, imagine what I'm looking forward to if they can do what they can do in the future. But anyways, I digress. Let's see. So in terms of defenses, like I said, so Herbert got sacked 4 times, also threw 2 picks. But Gray got sacked 3 times, also threw picks. The only other difference, I guess, was that Gray's picks were to 2 different people. They were to Trey Jenkins and Ivan Pace Jr. And then both the picks from Herbert went to the same dude, Jarius Camp. And actually one went for, did he go for a touchdown? Oh no, there was 2 defensive touchdowns. Oh yeah, both of them went for pick sixes. So that's even more insane that Herbert threw 2 interceptions for a pick 6. And he still won the game. And the Capitals still didn't capitalize. That's a bad pun. Off of it. And ultimately just, it just ended up not working out. But yeah, so ultimately that's just kind of how it worked. And yeah, great game over. I mean, I guess the final closing thoughts on this game. Great game from both teams. Looking forward to seeing what they could do next. I'm gonna keep an eye more on the Voyagers because they seem to be a dark horse team potentially in playoff contention. We'll see. I know it's only week 5, but it's a much shorter season than the NFL, so we'll see. But in the Capitals, they've been, they had 2 good weeks and they dropped 2 straight, so I don't know. It's probably back. We'll have to see how they do this next week because I think they have a tough opponent this next week. But anyways, let's move on to the next game. Speaking of shootouts, the Riverhogs hosting the Elks and beating them by only a field goal, 44-41. Talk about shootouts. Joel Basie and Steve Dowling, threw for a combined nearly. Oh, actually, was it nearly, or was it actually? It might have been over 1,000 yards combined. Just no defense for either side, because neither side threw a pick or turned the ball over much. So, or at all. I mean, the Dowling fumbled the ball once, but that's about it. So yeah, the Riverhogs get the win at home. First looking at the Riverhogs, I guess Steve Dowling, 448 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 sacks. On the ground, Justin Lopez, 55 yards, kind of a meh day, but still a touchdown. And then through the air, I guess another good wide receiver duo, Will Cooper and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And Jigba coming away with 152 yards through the air, and Will Cooper coming through with 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. So pretty insane there for Melbourne. Then moving over, talking about the Elks here. So they lost by 3 points. That's unfortunate because their quarterback, Joel Basie, the man of the hour here, threw for a whopping 576 passing yards and 5 passing touchdowns. And they still lost. Sorry. No, but yeah, so he actually threw for almost 600 yards and they still lost the game. It's pretty sad. But yeah, so I don't even know what happened, but I don't remember what happened even. I got to go watch the game back, but yeah, so obviously Basie now holds the new record for most passing yards in the game by a long shot, 476. Bryce Young's record previously I think was 530 something. So yeah, Basie's outthrowing him already. But he'll come back this week, so maybe he'll try and top him again. I doubt it. And trust me, if you question whether or not I adjusted the sliders, I did. We're still getting insane stats like this, so I might have to look into a little different angle, a little different method to use for sliders to make it more realistic. Maybe adjust the difficulty to all Madden or back or down to pro, because I guess that does something potentially. I don't know. I'll look into it. But yeah. I guess looking at for receiver, not that you guys care a whole lot, but obviously to no surprise, 2 receivers went off on the Elks as well. Owen Malecki, the tight end, led the team 176 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wow. And then behind him, Matthew Murray had 2 less yards and only 1 touchdown. So, man, what a game. I mean, I would say this is game of the year so far, but we've had already a couple games I could probably say that for. So this is probably one of them in the top, well, probably the top 10 games of the year already. So, and we're only going to be in week 5. That's insane. But anyways, that is, I mean, is there really much to talk about defense? I mean, yeah, a few tackles for losses here, a couple sacks, but no turnovers. Yeah, there's really not much else to talk about this game other than it was a shootout and the Riverhogs won. So, they move up to 2-2 on the year. Elks fall to 2-2. I think these two are in the same division now. So that's interesting. But yeah. So, anyways, that's my take on this game. So there's that. Next, moving on to our last game of the noon slate, we have the Tigers in Chicago hosting the Montreal Snowhawks, and the Tigers, to no my surprise, win this game 39-25. The Snowhawks trying their hardest to stay in the game. At least they tried better than the, they tried to hit harder against the, or were able to do more against the Tigers than they were the Sentinels, and we won. But that's a bad joke. But yeah, Larry Rutt, I mean, not a bad stat line either. 340, 57 yards, 3 touchdowns, and actually Lamar Jackson almost had an identical stat line, 349, but only like 1 touchdown. But the only real difference I see between these two quarterbacks is that Larry Rutt was a little more accurate, threw for a little more yards, threw more touchdowns, but was also sacked more. So, didn't get a whole lot of time to make more plays happen. But and actually, I kind of lied about that. Really, the main thing that killed the Snowhawks this game, similar to the Dreadnoughts, was their run game. Their run game was non-existent almost. Morris Blue led the team with 27 rushing yards. I mean, Larry Rutt didn't even get in that conversation, surprisingly, even though I think of him more as a scrambling quarterback. But receiving wise, at least had one guy go over 100 yards, Roy Joseph, and a touchdown. Their running back, Davante Savage, had a couple of receptions in there and a touchdown. But yeah, moving over, I guess, then to the top of the Tigers in reverse, or in response to that, Lamar Jackson, I already talked about him. Their running back, Jonathan Love, had a good game, 111 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, so opposite of the Snowhawks. Receiving wise, nobody actually cracked 100 yards. Marcus Anthony was close behind him, Alex Keene, and the 1 touchdown going to DJ Moreland. But yeah, other than that, the Tigers just held the Snowhawks back on defense, got more in the running game done, and that's basically about it. No turnovers either for either side again. So clean football being played here. So in Chi-Town. So the Windy City, sorry. But yeah, so all in all, that's really the main thing I gotta talk about this game, or thing I gotta want to bring up about this game. But all in all, good win for the Tigers. We'll have to see how they do the rest of the year, because this could be exciting to watch. We'll see. Alrighty, then let me just get a quick drink here for a moment before we move on to our 3 p.m. games. All right. So our first game here, oh boy. A rematch of the week 1 matchup between these two squads. The Lumberjacks traveling this time up to Anchorage, Alaska to take on the Antlers. And the Antlers, as you'll soon find out, have started to become a team that is hard to beat. I mean, now they just lost last week to the Armadillos, so maybe this was a bit of a revenge, or a little bit of like a game to like get their mindset right in the right spot again. But like the score was like this in week 1 before I adjusted the sliders, back when Mahomes threw 7 picks in the game. But it was almost the same score. Actually, let me just find the score from week 1, because I'm pretty sure it was identical. Yeah, the score from week 1, I kid you not, was 54-31. Antlers winning that game as well. And this one was only, both sides? Okay, so the Antlers had 5 more points. The Lumberjacks got 7 more points or 6 more points, but that's about it. I mean, that's just insane. Excuse me. But yeah, overall, I mean, like I said, Antlers team just tough to stop. We're still looking at Jadarius Herring's stats, coming to be proving himself in his 3rd season playing pro in this fictional world that have created here, or tried to create. 512 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Okay, I get it, but he's still at 120 QBR. I mean, this 75% of his passes were completed. This guy just could not miss, at least for a while, until he threw 2 picks. But other than that, I mean, 59 points. Almost 60 points dropped on the Lumberjacks. I mean, at this point, if I was Portland, if I was just fed up at this point, I would already just fire my defensive coordinator, because this is ridiculous. I mean, or just, figure out a game plan against these guys, because so far they have their number. These two never faced in prior seasons, but now they've faced twice, and the Antlers get the win both 2 times in a row. So yeah, I don't know. It should be hopefully a fun rivalry. I mean, hopefully this rivalry actually turns into something in the future. Maybe we'll see these 2 teams in the playoffs. That would be fun. But yeah, I don't know. It's a division rivalry, so we'll see how well it develops if I continue to league past 1 season, by the way. We'll see though. But yeah, so I went off on a rant a little bit, but sorry. So Herring was only sacked 2 times. Their running back was pretty all right, actually. Deontay Golston, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns after just 24 carries. And then as for receiving wise, again, 2 receivers. This is a common theme this week. 2 receivers go off. Telvin Page and Andrew Davis both go off for over 100. Page had 179 yards. Davis had 163. Both had 2 touchdowns each. The other touchdown going to Wyatt Davis, no relation to Andrew Davis. Had the other touchdown. Like this Anchorage offense just is insane. I don't know how they do it, but through watching these games, I mean they've played their best football they've ever played. So kudos to them. Then looking on the other side, I guess we should take a look at the Lumberjacks, right? That's the whole point of this. So Patrick Mahomes had 1 touchdown, 1 pick, so about below average game for him, I'm sure. 310 yards, so not near, like 200 yards less than Herring, and a 58% completion percent. Like, this defense for the Antlers had him locked down for a while. I mean, obviously he had 300 yards is not something, you locked him down, that he still gave up 300 yards. That's not locking down. I mean, you can go back and watch the game if you want, but it was in a way because they locked him down specifically where they needed to. So, like, yes, he wasn't getting, he got 300 yards, but he only got 1 touchdown. So they kept him out of the red zone, out of the end zone, which is what you're supposed to do anyways. So their goal line defense must be pretty dang good, because, if they're able to do this. Again, this is coming off of their loss last week against the Armadillos. But yeah, so, and then as for rushing on the ground, I mean, Mahomes himself was the leading rusher in touchdowns, 2 touchdowns on the ground. So he scored more with his legs this time as opposed to passing, which is very odd for him, at least from what I've seen. But yeah, Will Lowry had a decent, okay game, 62 yards only. 1 other touchdown went to the other running back, one of the other running backs, John Patton. Receiving wise, nobody came over 100 yards. Closest was Ben Henley with 87 and a touchdown, but everybody else was just kind of above average numbers. 7 catches for great George Tompkins, though, and 77 yards, so pretty good, all things considered. But yeah, so overall, defensively looking at this, I guess a couple sacks on both sides, like I said. Matt Randolph got the 1 pick for the Antlers. And then the 2 guys that intercepted Jadarius Herring were Eric Childress as well as Brian Branch. So, yeah, and then they did what they did with those. So, ultimately, like I said, the Antlers have. Main takeaway from this game I have is that the Antlers have the Lumberjacks number and don't seem like they're giving it back anytime soon. So, um, yeah, that's very fun. But anyways, we gotta move on. We gotta get through this. So game set or the next game here, the Mounties traveled to Sacramento to take on their new rival in the still actually in the same conference or still division as the last game we just talked about. 40-22 is the final score. Joe Burrow had a good game, 409 through the air, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Their running game was okay. Damian Ridley, 78 yards and 1 touchdown, so that's cool. Their leading receiver by a long shot was Damian Mitchell, 172 yards and a touchdown. Other touchdowns going to Greg Jennings, as well as Deion Jones, the running back for their squad. And Joe Burrow was sacked 2 times. I guess I could mention that too. And then on the flip side, Jake McLean played the whole game this time, unlike last week, and 348 through the air, 1 touchdown. No picks still, but was sacked 6 times. That kind of hindered them. Running game was not bad as bad as you would expect. Devontae Howard, 96 yards, 86 yards on the ground. He did leave the game though, and is injured. He's out for 4 weeks, which is unfortunate, but it happens. So McLean ended up coming or did some stuff. But yeah, I mean that's what happened, I guess. And then as for the receiving game, Parker Knight came close to 100 yards, 96 yards. Their tight end had 12 catches, Joe Barnett, but it can only muster 47 yards out of it. So this Mounties defense able to lock him down. And yeah, I mean, ultimately it led to them getting a 22 or 18-point win. So, yeah, not really much special, I think, from what I remember from this game, other than that Mounties got the win here. Condors fall, unfortunately, to 1-3. But look, good news for them. They have a potentially intriguing opponent, I think, this next week. So we'll have to watch how that goes down. But it might be getting tougher from them from here on out, but we'll see. Yeah, and I guess I can mention about Berkeley defense. Defense, I mean, not a whole lot. I mean, I guess on the Mountie side, Quandre May on the defensive end. I think that's who that's in the. Is that in the picture? No, it's not. He got 2 sacks, but really not a whole lot of action from other teams or either defense. So, other than the fact that the Mounties sacked Jake McLean 6 times. So, that is the main takeaway I have from this. Mounties get the win, move up to 2-2. And still remain competitive in their division behind only the Antlers now, I believe. Or actually, they maybe ahead of the Lumberjacks too. I forget. Or no, they're behind the Lumberjacks now because the Lumberjacks beat them last week. That's right. See, I remember. My memory's a little slow, but I remember. Anyways, I feel like I went through that way too fast. I apologize for that if I did. But now we're gonna move on to our next game, and that's gonna be one of the closest game we've had at this point. I mean, lowest scoring game, I guess, tightest game. The Desperados taking on the Pioneers the second time, rematch from week 1, where they were in Austin, Texas. This time they were in Salt Lake City. And the Desperados get the win, 13-10. And yeah, let's talk about this game a little bit. So really offensively, I mean, the Desperados, I mean, they're one of the not so great offenses and one of the worst offenses so far in this league. This did not help their case. Kerry Hyde, the leading quarterback, still filling in for the main starter. I forget his name already, but he had less than 200 yards. Again, I feel like I did that last week too. And then whereas Brady Malone had over 271, so a much more tame game compared to the other ones we've seen to this point. I know. Eric Peely had a good game for the Desperados, 95 yards on the ground. Receiving wise, nobody hit over 50 yards. The closest to do it was on the Desperado side was Devin Favors, the tight end, excuse me. And then the 1 touchdown came from the other tight end, Byron Haywood. I almost said that name wrong. So there's that. But and then moving over to the Pioneers side of things, Malone threw an interception. He got sacked 4 times. Let's see, what else did he do? Their running game was okay. Jamal Bennett had 53 yards on the ground over 20, nearly 30 carries. I mean, geez, their running game was not very efficient. That's for sure. Then we got Jadavion Aiken for the Pioneers, having 67 yards, so nobody hit 100 on their team either. And then the one touchdown coming from Jamal Bennett on the receiving game. So we got a receiving touchdown. I was going to say in addition, but he only got one. So forget I said that. And I guess really the thing that hurt Hyde was that, or Kerry Hyde in this game for the Desperados, was that his completion percentage. He 19 for 39. That's a very odd number of completions to attempts. But number two, it's only 48%. That is pretty awful. The Pioneers defense really held them in check. This was a very defensive game. They theoretically should have beat them based on that stat line alone, but unfortunately, the Desperados managed to get the time down to the point where they could kick a field goal and take the lead by 3, and ended up running out the game with that. So Desperados no longer under 500. They're batting at 500 at 2-2, and the Pioneers will then in turn fall to 2-2. So these two are currently fighting for third and fourth place in their division, and we'll talk about that more probably later, or if we do it all. But and then I guess defensively we could talk about this a little bit. One interception from the Desperados team, which ultimately probably saved him, Nolan Hoskins. But yeah, I mean, other than that, not a whole lot of exciting stuff. I mean, I guess the only other thing, Randy Easley for the Desperados had 3 sacks. So very good on his part, which obviously helped them stay in the game. So, but yeah. So anyways, that is all I have to say from this game. So we're going to just move on to our next one, because why not? The next one here, last one of our 3 p.m. time slot, is indeed the Aviators hosting the Chicago Bulls, Brooklyn Bulls. And oh, poor Bulls, man. I mean, these guys are also 0-4, and I feel like they don't really deserve to be. 3-point difference, 30-27. Drew Roderick, man, this guy just 1 touchdown, 245 through the air. That's not a terrible stat line either. I just feel bad for his team. Just can't help him win. His running game was actually really good. Raphael Phillips for the Bulls, 125 yards on the ground, no touchdowns, but Odrick ran 2 of them in for himself. So there you go. And they had 1 receiver hit over 100 yards, and that was Jose Pearson, the tight end. So that's cool. And Odrick only got sacked 1 time. So yeah, just must not have been able to. Unfortunately, it didn't look like they were able to keep, pace with the Aviators. On the flip side, Joseph Church had a all-right game, 384 through the air, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Was sacked 6 times too. That's insane. Sacked 6 times and won the game. That's incredible. As for the running game, also had a very good running game as well. Juan Randolph, 140 yards on the ground and a touchdown. 1 receiver also broke 100 yards on the Aviators, or for the Aviators, I should say. Eddie Elston, 138 yards through the air. No touchdowns, surprisingly, but those came instead, those touchdowns instead went to Kevin Phillips and Justin Babber, the tight end. So yeah, ultimately it looks like Aviators squeak by over the Bulls here. And I mean, I was kind of nervous anyways, because Aviators, they lost last week as well to the Huskies by only scoring 2 field goals. So the fact that they were able to do anything against this division rival, I mean, I thought that I was a little surprised by that, but I guess they practiced, learned from their mistakes, and then, had a good game. So that's what happened. Moving on to defense for either side, not a whole lot. 1 interception for the Bulls going to Jamal Bessler. But outside of that, I mean, 2 guys had 1.5 sacks, and almost no sacks for the Aviators defense as well. So yeah, overall though, Aviators get the win here on or at home, I should say, in Canton, and we'll look forward to face the Bulls later on this season. I forget what week they do, but hopefully we'll see if it's just as an exciting matchup as this one was. So, but yeah, that's all I got from this game. So that means we're moving on to our 5 p.m. game slot on Saturday. It seems stream's already getting long, probably because I had to fix things in the beginning, but oh well. First game here, we have the Armadillos and the Redwoods. And remember when I said that we had the closest game ever by far with the Pioneers and Desperados? Yeah, this one topped that one. 42-41. An absolute, or actually, okay, that's score's incorrect. It's actually 43-41. Sorry, my bad. Armadillos still win, but man, I want to talk about a shootout. Redwoods staying competitive with the Armadillos, and ultimately just falling short by 2. I know the score says 1, but I already said it was a typo. Sam Young having a fairly good game, solid game. 50. Unfortunately, his completion percentage was a little low, and he had a couple turnovers. But other than that, I mean, Michael Sullivan threw 4 interceptions. Also had a less than 70 QBR. I mean, but he also threw for, I guess, almost 400 yards. So I guess I canceled it out a little bit. But yeah, unfortunate result for the Redwoods here, as they just try to just remain competitive in this league, as they've kind of been one of the teams that have struggled the last couple of years. That we've had them. And, yeah, that's mainly what I got to say about that. But, yeah, moving on more in depth, then I guess there's the stats here that you guys can't see. Running back George Turner for Oakland had a good game. Decent game, I guess. 61 yards, not bad. Morgan Whiteside had another good game for him. 98 yards and a touchdown. Sam Young, like I said, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 233 yards. Overall, pretty solid, apart from the turnovers and completion percentage, which is probably why they lost. Then Michael Sullivan, moving over to his team. Sorry about that. But yeah, Sullivan, looking at him here, 392. We already talked about that, but 2 touchdowns and 4 picks. I mean, and was sacked 5 times. I mean, the man literally is I see the deals. Okay. So he also ran 2 touchdowns then. So I guess that helped out the team a little bit. Actually, at 77 yards on the ground too. Their running game, Matthew Fowler for the Armadillos, 138 yards on the ground and a touchdown. That's very, very good work from him. One receiver hit 100 yards on the Armadillos in this entire game, and that was Lamar Strong. Also had 2 touchdowns on the game. But yeah, I mean, other than that, the receivers kind of were just there. The ball got spread out a decent amount, which is good. But yeah, so Albuquerque will move up to 3-1. The Redwoods will fall to 1-3. They've just not had a whole lot of good luck lately, but you'll see where they're ranked in the power rankings, and that might shock you a little bit. So they've been fairly competitive so far, as you can clearly see. Just unfortunately been on the wrong side of losing things. Kind of similar to the last game with the Bulls. So only they have a win because they won. Who did they beat? I can't remember now. They beat somebody. Was it the No, it wasn't the Dragons. It was the was it last week? It might have been last. No, yeah, it was last week. They beat the Elks. So, anyways, but regardless, Armadillos get the win here at home. They get to face somebody, or they'll face their opponent this next week, and we'll talk about that more later. But yeah, good win for the Armadillos. Fortunately, unfortunately, just short for the Redwoods. So, moving on then to our next game, the Nighthawks taking on the Orbits. And the Nighthawks get the win 66-42. Ooh, man. That was weird. But yeah, the Orbits just are not very good. I mean, I'm not saying they're not a good football team, but they're just, I don't know, like Tucker Finnegan tried his best here. Almost threw 400 yards through the air, and also 5 touchdowns and 1 pick. He tried his hardest, his absolute hardest, gave his heart and soul into this team, this game, and the Nighthawks just outpaced them even past that. We'll get to that in just a moment, but I said last week that Steven Shore was probably the worst running back I've ever seen, but he had 89 yards and a touchdown this week. I mean, he might have hurt me a little bit. I don't know. We'll see how much of his production he can keep up, though, because I'm assuming this team would probably let him go after this year, but I don't know. We'll have to see, though, but just a hunch. Their leading receiver, nobody broke 100 yards in the Orbits, which probably didn't help them a whole lot. But Lorenzo Sharp was their leading receiver. Junior Minor was up there as well. And then 2 touchdown passes went to Thomas Marshall, the tight end. So I guess that's something to be excited about a little bit. But yeah, then moving over to the Nighthawks, Greg Hyde, have a night, my man. 567 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. No sacked, none. A perfect passer rating. 115. This guy's come a long way since his days just a couple of years ago. Last year and 2 years ago when he was when the Egyptians existed, and he was not doing too hot, especially in the first season. But yeah, this guy's come a long way. Putting up, he had 561 yards. I already said that, I know, but that's just insane to me. I don't know. Is that the record? I feel like Joel Basie had more. Anyways, but yeah, so Eric McDonald, another cornerstone piece for this franchise. 115 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 1 touchdown additionally from Daquan Farrell, or Farrell, whatever you want to call it as. And then we move on to receiving. My goodness. Ahmad Pearson having a good day. 178 yards, 1 touchdown. Chris Brackett had a good game at tight end. Touchdown, 92 yards. Then Max Hamilton having 230 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. I think that record's been broken already because it was like 215, I think, before someone broke it. I'm actually going to quickly... I'll look at it. It's on the other screen. So I'll have to... Actually, I'll just do it right now because I can. Let's see. Is that a record? You know what? Unless I didn't change it from last time. I might have forgotten to change it from last time, but that would be a record. There was a game, I think it was last week with... I'll double check that, but that might be a new record. But we'll see. Anyways. See, an absolutely insane game from the Nighthawks here. 66 points. Obviously, is no thing to shy away from. But, yeah. Orbits, my only message to you guys, just keep trying, and you'll hopefully come out with hopefully a win, and hopefully not be the worst team in the league. But, on the flip side, if you end up with the worst record, this works just like the NFL. If we were to do another season, and we were to do a draft, you get the first overall pick. So you get the best player coming out of college. And I know that new EA college game just dropped. So, I mean, I don't know. You never know. But, anyways. So, that's a whole nother deal. But, regardless. Yeah. Good game for the Nighthawks. They're now 3-1 in the year. So, very impressive. And the Orbits, 0-4, man. Gotta be a little bit better. But, anyways, next game then. So the Bisons hosted the Shamrocks this past weekend, and they had a pretty convincing win over them. 20-point win, 33-13. Shamrocks again, another 0-4 team, winless team in this league. After 4 weeks. Looking at the stats a little deeper, Brock Purdy for the Bisons, 419 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, also 2 picks. sacked 6 times as well. Uh, Joey Bernard, for their running game, had 93 yards on the ground and a touchdown. No receiver on the Bisons managed to break 100 yards. No one did on the Shamrocks either. We'll get to that in a moment, though. Orlando Peterson had one of the receiving touchdowns, as well as Devontae Austin. But yeah, 33 points, nothing to shy away from. Moving on then to the Shamrocks, Will Bentley. I'm not sure if he's the guy quite at this point because, yeah, 263 yards. I mean, he can put up numbers, but just cannot help his team win to this point. Maybe he's just facing too tough of defenses. I don't know. But the guy got sacked 7 times, threw just over, a little over half his passes. Well, 63 is a little more than a little over. But anyways, and then Jermaine Davis, only 55 yards. Ouch. But however, he is injured and is now out for several weeks, so they'll be out with their starting running back. So, so Antoine Bridge came in for him towards the end of the game. But yeah, leading receiver for the Shamrocks was Kevin Bean. But yeah, this team just struggled again for the fourth straight week in a row. They had 2 interceptions on Purdy, and a couple sacks, 6 sacks on him, but that's not going to help you gain 20 points to more than 20 points. I should say 3 touchdowns, 21 points to get the win over the Bisons. So yeah, overall an unfortunate loss. Good bounce back win for the Bisons after losing to the Desperados last week. But yeah, unfortunate heartbreaker again to the Shamrocks as they try and also search for their first win of the year, and try and climb out of the hole they're already in, not only in their division, but also obviously in the overall standing. So there's still lots of time left, but not as much time left as you think. And if they want us to continue to, or try to be potentially somewhat of a contender, they will have to certainly start turning things around soon. There's only 13 weeks, so you get to so many losses and you're already eliminated. So from the playoff bracket. But anyways, that's really all I got to say from that game. Other than that, Bisons did a pretty good job defensively, everything, holding the Shamrocks in check. Very fun team to watch. We'll see how they do, for the rest of this year. But we're now going to conclude our Saturday games with the Oilers facing the Black Knights. And what a good game this was. 34-39, very civil, or 34-39. 34-31, very civil game. However, Anthony Richardson, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I mean, this man probably was on pace with Patterson, except for those turnovers. So there's that. 420 yards through the air, though, for him. 3 touchdowns. So he had to throw more because they were down by a little bit. But and then as for running game, Richardson actually almost tied Deion Barnes in rushing, with Deion Barnes having 84, Richardson having 75. Barnes had a touchdown on the ground. In terms of receiving, looks like Rodney Rosenthal had 218 through the air, or on the receiving end, 2 touchdowns. That would already be a record had it already not been broken, I think, last week. And then the tight end, BJ Rosenthal, I can say the name. I'm not sure if those guys are related or not. 6 catches, 106 yards, and a touchdown. So overall, quick and effective scoring went up from the Oilers, or I say quick and effective, efficient, and Richardson just throwing it to 2 guys mainly. But his turnovers ultimately cost his team. The Black Knights, on the other hand, cruised to a good win after their last week loss to the Steamers, at home too. So this is they get another win at home. 2 touchdowns from Patterson, 276 yards, so half as many yards. Also only 4 sacks taken. Hopkins on the ground, Junior Hopkins had 77 yards, whereas the only touchdown was scored by Quincy Wilbon on the ground. Patterson had a decent amount of rushing yards too. And then the wide receiver, Jared Whitworth, ended up with 112 yards through the air, with Derek Hyde having 2 touchdowns, as that that Hyde and Patterson connection is still alive and strong. Obviously, there's Hyde being celebrated by his teammates as he scores one of those touchdowns You can see that there in the graphic on screen. But yeah, so overall, and then I guess looking at defenses quickly towards the end, here's the 3 interceptions, like I said, from Anthony Richardson. One of them from Juan Bush, another one from J.J. Postley, and of course another one from Sidney Monroe. So yeah, Richardson just needs to be ultimately, I guess main takeaway from this is that the Black Knights, well, they got their bounce back win. A little concerned with their pass defense, as Richardson was still able to throw all over them, even after throwing 2. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions, but the fact that you still let up a 400 yards of passing offense is kind of concerning. And only won by 3 points. I mean, come on, man. But yeah, I mean, the Oilers just need to be a little. Anthony Richardson needs to be a little smarter with the ball, and then after that, he should be ultimately fine. As far as I can see. So, but anyways, that I think is basically everything I wanted to say about that game. So, yeah, Paris Black Knights get the win at home in Paris, and Oilers fall to 1-3. So I'm gonna get a drink quickly, and then we'll discuss our remaining 3 games before we close out the night here. I've already been doing this for over an hour, so I'm not gonna try and keep you guys any longer than I need to. But we're going to get through all these games. So the next game coming on Sunday evening, the Blues and the Monarchs. And the Monarchs getting another win in a row, second win in a row for them after dropping 2 straight start the year. The Blues obviously dropping their 4th straight. So kind of unfortunate there. Jordan Love, I mean, having a decent game, 395 through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, taking 3 sacks. On the ground, Gray Boykin, 153 yards, no touchdowns. Touchdown did come from their other running back, though. That would be Tavon Burse. Receiving was led by LaMarcus Washington, and also the only touchdown went to him as well. Meanwhile, for the Monarchs, Josh Allen had a good game, 281, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers this time for him. John Hargrave had a good game, 106 yards through the air, or on the receiving end, sorry. On the ground. What am I saying? Josh Allen ran a little bit too. Leading receiver for the Monarchs was Emmett Aldridge, 121 yards and a touchdown. Other touchdowns going to Josh Nugent, as well as Curtis Maben, the tight end. So, yeah, ultimately, takeaways from this game, the Monarchs are back so far from their start of season slump when I predicted they would go I predicted they would go pretty far in this league this season, but yeah, so far they've bounced back to 500. We'll see what they can do now with their back in contention for their division, with the Black Knights taking a little bit of their first loss, and then the Snowhawks as well in there, and which we'll get to in a little bit. As well as we already talked about them. Snowhawks being at 2-2, Monarchs being at 2-2, and then the Shamrocks down at 0-4, and then the Black Knights obviously 3-1. So the Monarchs are back in their contention in their division, leaving the Shamrocks in the dust just a couple weeks after they both started 0-2. So, I guess for defense, I've last quick mention. Picasso Mason got an interception, or he was the one that got the interception off of Jordan Love. So, but other than that, that's really all I gotta say for this game. So, congrats to Monarchs. Blues, I don't know what to do about them. They're a team that should be good. Jordan Love is a potential good quarterback for them, but we'll see. We'll have to see. Then we move on to our doubleheader Monday night games that we had this past couple days ago. Starting off with what should have been probably the game of the week, which was the Dragons taking on the Golden Eagles. Ouch. The Golden Eagles absolutely smack down the Dragons 34-10. Yeah, I was sitting here wondering, obviously, because, I created the schedule manually. So, I was like, well, we're going to put this in here. And it just so happened that I didn't have to change this game, and this game lined up perfectly. That was 2 undefeated teams going into week 4 on a primetime slot. So, I mean, it sucks that it was the first game of 2, but, you know, obviously it ended up being a blowout, so it was fine for what it was anyways. But, yeah, so I kind of figured this game would, I had originally hoped this game would have been a little bit more closer than it ended up being, but, yeah. Looking obviously more in depth at it, I guess. Dan Norwell, 242, 42% completion percentage. Ouch, just could not complete the ball. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 3 sacks, or 3 sacks 3 times. Deshaun Gills getting absolutely shut down compared to his usual at only 77 yards. Still solid, but we're used to him seeing over 100, obviously. And then as for receiving wise, not a soul hit over 70. The leading receiver was Shelton Love, who's actually injured for a couple weeks now. So ultimately a sad day for Tokyo fans, unfortunately. And then as for the Golden Eagles on the flip side, Stroud had a heyday, 4 touchdowns, 403 through the air, 71% completion percentage. Still threw an interception, but I mean, based on how badly they beat him or how far ahead they were of them, I can maybe overlook this interception as just kind of like, you know, a slight sacrifice to get the win. I don't know. I made it sound kind of weird, but anyways, unlike the Dragons, the Golden Eagles had 2 guys hit over 100 yards. One of them being Juan Sears and Ben Saunders. Ben Saunders coming away with 2 touchdowns as well. And then Joey Looker also had a touchdown as well. And then the other touchdown I forgot to mention went to Sears as well. So, and then I guess I forgot to mention the running game. Justin Mullins actually was kind of shut down this game. 65 yards only to his name under 24 attempts. Stroud got in there a little bit as well, but not really a whole lot of looks on the run or on the ground, as the Dragons were able to stop it, but they just could not stop the pass. So, yeah, there you go. Defensively for both sides, obviously the 1 pick interception for both teams. On the Golden Eagle side, Tremaine. It's a weird way to spell it. Tremaine McLean. Getting the interception off of Dan Norwell. And then on the other side, Vaughn Stanley getting the interception off of CJ Stroud. So, yeah, ultimately this game was exciting, but, you know, I mean, or I shouldn't say exciting, it was shocking. And I'm interested to see how the Dragons bounce back from this and how the Golden Eagles proceed from this. And we'll see, you know, just see what happens next. The Golden Eagles remain one of 2 undefeated teams now in the league. So, kudos to them. Kudos. Now I guess we'll just move on to our last game of the night, or the week, this past week here. And that was the Thunderbirds taking on the Steamers. And this was a much, slightly more interesting game. Obviously, more points being scored by the losing team. But Thunderbirds still beat them by 21 points, 3 touchdowns, 45-24. Nate Hampton having a field day himself, 524 yards through the air, 4 touchdown passes, no picks. On the flip side, Brian Burbank only throwing 412, still impressive, and 2 touchdowns, but also 1 pick, taking 5 sacks as well. Hampton threw 79% of his passes, which is insane, honestly. Jacoby Ricard still filling in for the injured Emmett Massey, had a heck of a day. As you can see there, 147 yards on the ground. And then, my goodness. So I had, you know, obviously we have the leading receiver, Chamberlain, for the Thunderbirds. 2 touchdowns, 121. 4 receivers for the Thunderbirds, each hit 100 yards. So that, I've never seen that before. Taylor Westbrook with 100 yards. Sam Weber, the tight end, hit 102 yards. And Brenton Allison, another wide receiver, hit 100 yards as well. That is insane. And then meanwhile, the touchdowns went to JaMychal Peely and J.D. Shirley, tight end. So, So yeah, ultimately, Thunderbirds offense just exploded here in this game on the road in Memphis. And, they announced their new division rival too, as these teams did not face before, and now they're facing here. Um, but yeah, so honestly, just kind of insane how that ended up doing its thing. Um, but yeah, so that's really the majority I gotta say about that. Um, Trying to think of what else here. Oh yeah, I guess I can move on to Memphis. What am I doing? So yeah, as for the Memphis other stats, the running game was non-existent, 31 yards only from Staley, a touchdown, but only 31 yards. And then Burbank hit 3 of his receivers for 100 yards too. It looks like Jordan there on the screen, leading with 107. Zach Hayes with 102, and then Staley himself, the running back, with over 100 as well. So it's not that Burbank couldn't get the ball out. He just, again, similar to the situation I think we talked about in the first, was the first game? Which game was that? I already forget. One of the earlier games was that, the offense just could not get, it was the Wizards and the Huskies. The Wizards, or the Steamers, sorry, experienced the same thing in this game, basically what the Wizards had, earlier, which was they could score on offense for sure, but they just could not keep up with the other offense. Their defense couldn't. I mean, their defense, and plus, I mean, I know Burbank was picked off at one time, but like, you can recover somewhat quickly from an interception if you're smart enough about it, and don't make more mistakes. But yeah, ultimately, Steamers take another loss here, fall to 2-2. Thunderbirds 3-1. It's looking pretty good here for the T-Birds here. Obviously, they that's just sounded weird. Thunderbirds. In our division now, they are we got the Tigers, I think at are they 3-1 as well? So they're tied with the Tigers now with the best record. Steamers at 2-2, and the Blues down in the basement at 0-4. So there is a little brief look at that division. But yeah, so this game obviously defensively, one interception on the Thunderbird side by Julian James. Outside of that, not a whole lot in terms of anything to point out. So yeah, good win for the Thunderbirds. Steamers, we'll have to just try next time, and we'll see who their next opponent will be in a few short moments. So, that was a lot of games. Thankfully, this next week they'll be shorter, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well. But that is going to be it for the games recap section of this stream, and it's already over almost an hour and a half. So I'm trying to keep it short as possible here. But yeah, we'll see. We're gonna move on now to the what was I gonna move on to? Let's see. Looking at the you know what? We're gonna let's see. Okay, I guess we'll talk about we'll move on to the power rankings, updated power rankings for the league here. So let me just pull that up quickly. And then we'll move on to weekly awards as well, and then we'll finish off with the schedule, and then we'll end the stream after that. So yeah, moving on here, I guess then to the power rankings. The updated power rankings for week 5. We had some movements here, and I actually updated them this time. I did it before the stream started. So that's good. And the records are shown there to the right of the name, or right of the team name. Obviously, you guys can figure that out. But yeah, only 2 teams did not move at all in the power rankings for this week. That would be the Golden Eagles and then the Bulls. Brooklyn Bulls as we get down further. But yeah, so it's a notable thing. So we have a new number 1 team again. This time the Antlers take the number 1 spot over both of the undefeated teams in the league. Huskies fall 2 spots, probably because they just gave up some most points and whatnot, I'm assuming. But I don't know for sure. The Wizards take a tumble as well, obviously losing their first game of the week or of the year. Tigers fall as well, despite winning their game. Dragons fall, after taking their first loss. Capitals fall as well after dropping 2 straight, so that makes sense. Biggest jump I can see here is 9 spots. The Nighthawks, like I said, being one of the unexpected teams so far early on in this league, at 3-1 record. The Nighthawks jumping up 9 spots from their previous spot of 13 to 4. And other teams dropping in their place or where they used to be. Another big jump, obviously, because you can see here, the Redwoods. The Redwoods are ahead of virtually every single 2-2 or 500 team except for the Capitals. So there's that. But yeah, as we move down here, you get to see it gets a little more bizarre. Obviously, we see more red. The biggest drop is about 4, so not terrible. So we're starting to a little solidify things probably a little bit more as we go on through the year. Elks took a big drop. Lumberjacks took a drop. Steamers took a drop. Monarchs went up. Sentinels went up, obviously. And then obviously you see the Bulls down here sitting at bottom 32, 0-4. However, what I find interesting is the Sentinels, like I said, they may be 0-4, but their power rankings is ahead of the Oilers. So that means that, I'm assuming at least that means that there's something about them that the game or whatever thinks that they could potentially turn this thing around, as they are or maybe probably because they have the least point differential, honestly. But yeah, so I mean that's pretty good, honestly. Moving up 4 spots, 0-4 start of the year, but hey, this is a sign for anything. It could be a sign for them to turn things around, but we'll have to see. And then obviously you can see the Blues, Shamrocks, Orbits, all teams in contention so far for the number 1 overall pick. Pending we do a draft and all that. But yeah, as you see, all the 2-2 teams. So any surprises on here, just let me know in the comments. If you've been watching the whole time. If not, it's fine. You just let me know your opinions if you have any. Yeah, so that's the updated power rankings list for week 5, heading into week 5. We'll also talk about the weekly awards, which I don't remember now if we did the weekly awards last week. So if I didn't, I apologize. I'll do them right here. And if I did do them, again, I'm doing them again. So for week 3, so for last week that I think skipped over. I could be wrong though. The offensive player of the week for the WFC conference. The offensive player of the week was Joe Burrow. For the Mounties, obviously he's 376 yards. You can see the stat line there. And then our defensive player of the week was Jimmy Sherd. For the Dragons, 19 tackles, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. So good. Congrats to those two. And then for the EFC side, Justin Herbert for the Voyagers. His stat line listed there. And then Doug Clifford actually ended up getting the weekly award for his 3 tackles, 3 sacks, and 1 forced fumble and fumble recovery. So that's the weekly awards from last week. Now we'll move on to this week. So this week, your players of the week for the WFC Western Football Conference. Joel Basie with his record-breaking game, 576 yards and 5 touchdowns for the Elks. Huge congratulations to him. And then Randy Easley, we talked about him earlier, 3 sacks in the game. He gets a weekly award for it for the Desperados. So good job to those guys. And then moving over to the other conference, EFC side, for the Thunderbirds, Nate Hampton wins the Offensive Player of the Week award, 524 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 6 yards and another touchdown on the ground, so 5 total touchdowns. And then on the defensive side, Luther Hyde getting in there, 4 sacks. I forgot, I guess, to mention that when we went through the game by game. But yeah, Luther Hyde had a good game. So both Hyde players had a good game on the Black Knights this past weekend. So, but there are the Week 4 awards. If you guys have been watching and think another player should have gotten these awards, let me know. But let me know your thoughts and opinions if you have any. Outside of that, though, we're going to go and we're going to move on here to the schedule for this Week 5 starting tomorrow. So I will show that off, in a moment here. Here's the schedule itself. And something else I'm going to mention here is that, so we have this season, by the way, if you are new here, welcome. But something I mentioned at the beginning of the season a couple weeks ago was that this season is a unique season in a sense that I decided to make it not a full NFL-like season, so it's not 18 weeks. Instead, kind of to coincide with the fact of me starting school in this coming fall again because I still am in school, and you know, making sure it's feasible for me to not actually like, forget about it or like get too caught up with something. Hopefully I can actually finish this on time. I decided to make a completely custom schedule so that I could fit 12 games in 13 weeks. So there's 13 weeks. I know it's a weird number, but it's 12 games because it's the division games twice, so 6 games. Another division, so 4 games on top of that, so 10. And then 2 other games. I didn't necessarily need to include those, but I thought that just to be different, just to try it out, see if it was doable. Hopefully it will be. But that's what we're doing here. So in saying that, I had to give teams some bye weeks in order for everything to line up properly. So the bye weeks are starting this week. Obviously, you see there in the left corner, bottom left corner, the bye weeks. Teams that have byes this week are the Brooklyn Bulls, the Voyagers, the Lumberjacks, and the Riverhogs, respectively. So those teams are don't have a game this week, but we'll be back next week, and then we'll have some other teams with byes as well. I think we have more byes next week too, so look forward, stay tuned for that. But yeah, so we'll go through these games quickly. I'll give my thought on who's going to win, and then we'll probably close this out. So start off here with tomorrow's game. We got the Sentinels again on primetime, I know. I didn't want to flex the game until next week, so... Or actually, no, I did flex the game this week. I lied. But I'm not going to flex this game, so... Yeah, deal with it. But the Sentinels will be hosting the Oilers in Houston, 7 p.m. Central. According to my franchise tool, let's see, the Oilers are supposed to, or no, the Sentinels are supposed to win by 2.5 or more, so 3 points or more. You know what? Despite the Oilers having a decent game and close game against the Black Knights last week, I'll actually take the Sentinels in this one to win that game. Then we'll move on to the Saturday games. First in noon slot, we have the Tigers taking on the Redwoods. That game is supposed to be, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I guess the Redwoods have been very competitive this year. Tigers have been pretty dominant, so I'm fairly confident with Chicago in this game. Then moving on next, I guess we have the Shamrocks and the Thunderbirds, and Thunderbirds are easily favored in this one by a lot. So I'll just, well, the Shamrocks could surprise people. I mean, I'm not saying they will, but they could be competitive. So, but just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna take the Thunderbirds. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Shamrocks put up a decent fight, potentially make it even a 1-score game. We'll see. Then moving on next, we have the Condors of the Antlers. Yeah, with the way this Antlers offense is going, I mean, this is a division game again, though. I say that like it matters, because obviously the last 2 division games for them didn't matter that much, but or weren't, wasn't that because it's a division game, it's gonna be a tight game. That really didn't matter a whole lot or play into it. But yeah, as for that, so the Antlers, I mean, I guess they could, well, I'll have them winning this game, but only by like 7. It's going to be a close game. Then moving on to the Dreadnoughts and the Orbits. We got 0-4. Oh, I guess battle of 0-4 teams. All right, so here's the thing with this game. So I noticed this before the stream started, that these 2 teams are 0-4 going into this week. So naturally, I'm going to comment on it. I could have easily flexed this game to give it a primetime showing who is the worst team in the league. I'm not going to do that. That'd be very stupid. So this, man, I want to give the Orbits a chance. I really do, but I got to go with I got to go with the Dreadnoughts in this one. I think they're going to win this game. It's going to probably be closer than I think, but 2 0-4 teams. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The Dreadnoughts are the best team of the 0-4 teams. Teams out to win. So San Antonio will go home happy in this game as they will finally win a game this season. So then moving on to the next slate of games, 3 p.m. games. Dragons taking on the Nighthawks. Another tight game. Dragons both teams going in here 3-1, so a very competitive game. Hopefully a very exciting game. I think the Dragons will bounce back. I think they're going to win this game. Probably not by a whole lot, but I think it'll be a good game regardless. So I'll take the Dragons to win that one. The Bisons taking on the Armadillos. So battle of the number 1 teams in both their division. The top 2 teams in their respective division, both tied for first place. Honestly, this one could be a toss-up for me. Personally, I like the Bisons for some reason in this one, so I'm going to take the Bisons. But I would not be surprised if the Armadillos win, given that Michael Sullivan was able to literally throw 4 picks in a game and still win. So if that's anything to go off of, I'll trust that any day. And for that reason only. But then we got the Blues and the Huskies. Give me the Huskies. Jordan Love, man, I don't know what to say. This Blues team, I had very high expectations. I'm not saying I'm off the Blues train quite yet. I'm not saying they're going to be a bottom basement team for the whole season, but if they're going to do something, they got to turn it around right now. Because otherwise they're not going to be competitive at all. But yeah, so I'm giving it's going to be a closer game just because I'm giving the Blues only slightly potentially a chance in this one because it is a division game. Or no, it's not a division game. Sorry, it used to be a division game, but if in the previous version of this league, but now it's not. So there you go. But moving on then to our last game in 3 p.m. time slot, we have the Pioneers and the Snowhawks. I mean, this is this first tough game I've had to choose between here. Malone or Larry Rutt. I feel like these 2 teams faced last year in the previous incarnation. I'm trying to remember who won. I think it was Larry Rutt that won the game. Obviously, the Snowhawks were previously known as the Barons, but again, Madden, thank you for taking away a team for me to use. You know what? I usually, in this case, I'm going to go with the Snowhawks only because they're the home team. They're probably, well, let's see. What does the spread say? Spread says that they are supposed to win by, the Pioneers are supposed to win by 4.5 or more. I'm still going to take the Snowhawks. It could go either way for me, but I'm going to take the Snowhawks just because they're the home team, I guess. I don't know. Then moving on to our 5 p.m. time slot, we have only 3 games this time instead of 4. We have the Monarchs taking on the Steamers in Memphis. Another tight game, another game that should be good, hopefully. Josh Allen versus Brian Burbank. Honestly, I don't know why I'm saying this, but give me the Monarchs, man. Give me the Monarchs to win this game barely. Complete like a 3-game. I think they can do it. I mean, Josh Allen is a little older, but Steamers, they literally have gotten their butts kicked before. Or no, was that them or was it the Elks? Hold on, maybe I have it wrong. Hold on. Hold on a second. Was that the? Yeah, they've gotten their butts kicked before by the Elks. Like, I'm totally gonna I'm gonna go with the Monarchs. That's my pick. So, spread says that Monarchs actually are supposed to win by 3.5 or more. It's gonna be about that, by 3 or more. I'll take if I had to bet. I'm not going to, but then we got our second to last game, the Wizards taking on the Capitals. Ooh, potentially another sneakily good game here in the late slate. Not sure why I did that, but I made the schedule before the records are made, so there you go. Wizards and Capitals. I'm gonna take the Wizards. I think they can bounce back this week against the Capitals. I like what's his name? Junior Gray and that Capitals team, but I think the Wizards will get the best of them, even though they're on the road. I just have a sneaky suspicion. So then our last game of the week, coming to you, the Elks versus the Golden Eagles And I'm sorry. Give me the Golden Eagles in this one. I don't trust the Elks. I really don't. Um, I mean, they are 2-2. They've beaten some pretty solid teams already this year. But give me the Golden Eagles. They're the team to beat. 4-0. It could be a close one. They could be upset this week. Who knows? But yeah, give me the Golden Eagles. I think it's just going to be a walk in the park for them. But that's just my opinion. So we'll see how that goes. But then our last two live games of the week, we have our Sunday night matchup between the Canton Aviators and the Mounties. Ooh, this could be another sneakily good game, which is why this was one I flexed to Sunday night. You know what? Give me the Give me Joe Burrow in this one. I feel like Joe Burrow is gonna put up some points at home here against the Aviators. They're no longer, or actually they were never in the same division. But yeah, no, give me the Aviators to win this, or give me this, give me the Mounties to win this game. By probably about 7 to 10 points. Joseph Church could do stuff, but I don't know. I've not really seen a whole lot. Not that I remember, at least. But I don't know. We'll have to see. It could be all wrong for it could be wrong for all I know. So, but then moving on, I guess last game of the week, we got our Monday night game against our game of the week, which that's not really game of the week, but Black Knights versus Desperados. So Desperados sitting at 2-2. Black Knights sitting at 3-1 on the road in Austin, Texas. Probably gonna be some jet lag potentially. 8:30, or sorry, 7 p.m. Central. I have that wrong in my schedule, but oh well. You know what? Just because the Desperados offense is literally the worst in the league at the moment. It actually is. Give me the Black Knights to win this game, and they're gonna win by 10 at least. It could be a sneakily close game, as we saw with the Pioneers last week, but I'm starting to be convinced that Pioneers game last week was just because it was a division game, because it was so tight. But I don't know. I mean, the Black Knights lost to the Steamers, who got their butts whooped the week before by the Elks. So at this point, it's still anybody's game. That's all I'm saying. So, but yeah, and for those of you wondering, those microphones, obviously the key is in the corner. Microphone equals live commentary. Usually, although this past weekend that wasn't the case, but I had things going on this past weekend, so I just didn't feel like commentating. So I let you guys just kind of listen to the game audio, not the commentators. Turn those off. But yeah, so that's that. So that's my game picks for that game, and then that's what the key is if you guys are wondering. But anyways, so that I think is about everything. I think. Let me just go check. Yeah. So that is all for this stream. Hope you guys did enjoy this recap here. As a reminder, you are enjoying this league, don't forget to leave a like on this video, and also all the games as well. And also subscribe to stay tuned for the rest of the season as we hopefully push for 13 full weeks, as well as a playoffs and a league championship as well. And then we'll go from there if we're going to do this in the future. Potentially, with Madden 25 coming out with the team builder, that could be exciting, so we don't have to do it on PC. And then maybe we can incorporate a new college game into it. But yeah, that's about it. So thank you all so much for coming out if you chose to. Also feel free to share this league around if you know anybody that enjoys this type of thing, simulation league, whatever. Currently it's just a view only simulation league, so no player applications or coach applications or anything like that. But we'll have to see how things develop and whatnot. But also, I guess I can give a shout out here in right now. I keep forgetting to mention it, but I actually do run other channels too. I don't know why don't have those connected yet. That's kind of stupid to me. But I run other YouTube channels as well, so those will hopefully be linked in the description. If not, I'll add them, and I'll add them on the profile channel page. But I might have to make an update video about that. We'll see. But anyways, that is all from me. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys enjoy this next coming week. Starting tomorrow with the Sentinels and the Oilers. So hopefully it should be a good one. Thank you all for watching. Have a good night. Peace.